Hello YouTube and fellow Star Wars collectors. Today we'll be taking a look at the recent Droid Factory 4-pack from the Ahsoka series. It's really nice to get more characters and figures added to our collection that really help us world build a variety of scenes from that show. It's also nice to, get a couple more figures in hand shortly after the show is done, so I'm really appreciative of that. It's also nice that these 4-packs offer, background droids that we typically wouldn't see in the vintage collection. Yes, there are 2 characters here that are coming to TVC, but a lot of people were upset that, that Chopper didn't have articulated arms. And if you want a version that has articulated arms, here you go. He's a little bigger, so, he's not quite accurate, but he is a pretty cool looking figure. We also have Huyang here, who at a first glance doesn't really look as good as what's coming to TVC, but he's a Build-A-Droid, so you can kind of pop off his arms, recreate that scene from the Clone Wars, so he is still useful. I would have liked to see maybe the Protocol droids. There were some really cool color schemes in the Ahsoka show, as well as Morgan's droids that fly the hyperspace ring. Those I just don't think are ever going to come to TVC, so getting that kind of background droid here would have been really, really cool to see. But the one thing I want to say is I must point out that RD3 here emphasizes the need for Baylan and Shin in the vintage collection. He's in the opening scene, and yeah, we absolutely need those characters, as well as some New Republic troopers. We can't complete that scene. We have this droid, and that would be really cool to get one day in TVC. But with all that said and done, let's take a closer look at the packaging in each one of these droids. Taking a look at the packaging, we have our standard box that we see with all these Droid Factory releases. We have the Star Wars logo in the bottom left corner, with an Ahsoka Series logo on a sticker on the opposite side. Then in the center, we have a name pill that has the names of each one of these droids. C1-10P, better known as Chopper, C4-R4C, Professor Huyang, and RD3. And then on the back we have images of the droids again with their names, as well as a small description from the Ahsoka series. So all in all, pretty good packaging, and if you want to keep one of these sealed up, it's a really nice display piece, but I'm definitely going to be opening this up and adding these droids to my collection. And taking a look at these droids, free of their bubble and out of the packaging, I must say that they look rather spectacular, and they're a really nice addition to our collections. Here you can see the recent TVC Deluxe Sabine Wren placed next to all these characters, and they all scale very nicely together. She looks really good next to Huyang, and even Chopper, who for this release is a little bit on the larger scale. Compared to the TVC one, he looks pretty good next to her, so nothing too drastic there, and he'll just blend in nicely with your collection if you want to use that one instead. RD3 here, you can see I don't have his middle leg on, just so you can see that neutral pose in case you are new to collecting, new to these Disney 4-packs, or just unfamiliar with the Build-A-Droid model. So taking a look at Chopper, he looks pretty good close up, and I must say that he's got some pretty decent paint applications and overall decent detail. But I will say that he's not as detailed as the Vintage Collection version, and I think he's a little bit more in line with the Rebels animated look, if you will. He does have some articulation here on his forearm that goes down and gets nicely tucked away in there. It's not loose or anything. And then, of course, he's got the articulation on the arms, which he does have a swivel here, and then a couple points of articulation on these elbows, if you will. And then the hand here also moves, so you can get some pretty nice expressions out of him, which is really cool. These also do come out, so if you want to actually display him without his arms out, that's an option, which is something he does in the show, and I am a little disappointed, that the TVC version can't really do that. I've been meaning to play around and see if I could take the arms off, but they feel a little fragile, and I just don't want to break that figure yet. Chopper can also, for this Build-A-Droid release, if you apply a little bit of extra pressure there, you can take his head off and, just see his mechanics there. Because of this, he doesn't have that ball joint that the Vintage Collection one has, where he can kind of tilt his head and get those classic expressions of his, but yeah, it's still a nice figure. You can get some rotation there, really good. He's pretty basic when it comes to the rest of the things as far as droids go. He's got a swivel there, swivel here. The other leg is a little different, just like you saw in the show. And then this does come out on his middle leg. Same thing, if you apply some pressure, take it right out. And because of the way they kind of slotted this, it actually doesn't rotate 360 degrees like the other Chopper. So that's a little bit of a shame there. And then just taking a look at the detail, it's got some pretty decent paint applications, like I said, and overall a pretty good addition to the collection. But let's bring in that Vintage Collection one. So here you can see that while it's smaller, it's not drastically smaller. And I gotta say that I do think the Vintage Collection one looks better overall. There's so much more detail on it, and just, yeah, if they could have articulated the arms, it would have been fantastic. But overall, I think it's a really nice addition to the collection, and it's cool to, get another version of Chopper added to the display. And here we have Huyang, who I just have to start off by saying is a really nice figure, but before you even knock the Vintage Collection release that's coming out, I must say that, Disney sometimes doesn't have the best quality. This has already broken off. It is articulated, it does move, and I was just barely even messing with it. Look, that one just broke right there. That's ridiculous. That's so crazy. So, yeah, be careful with your Huyangs. Apparently they don't really want to articulate those arms. So, yeah, I'm going to have to put some tack just to keep that in place. But I just wanted to start off by showing you guys that. Alright, we're back and still 75% original parts. Yeah, that was a bit of a shame in my opinion. But let's take a closer look at Huyang. He does have articulation in the arms that, for the moment, seems to be good. That's a pretty decent joint there, so I don't see any problems happening there. He does have articulation in his wrist, which, if I had to guess, that pin is also very, very thin, so be careful with that. I kind of like that they gave him this Kung Fu chop grip. That's pretty cool. Again, articulated, but I would be careful with that. You just never know. And if you're curious, here are both of the arms back there. I don't know if those were supposed to be articulated. I'm pretty sure they are. But yeah, the joint inside the backpack or whatever's inserted in there just is weak, maybe frozen. I don't know. So here you can see I kind of put some tack. For the moment, I'll probably just glue those in place and just not be moving him because I'll have a Vintage Collection version, which hopefully will be a lot better. Other than that, he's got this kind of crunch articulation up here, which is nice. His head does have some decent rotation, not really a ball joint to it, but yeah, pretty good. Taking a closer look at his paint on his face, I kind of like that metallic blue color that's going on there, and his eyes look pretty decent. He's got the soft plastic skirt that we normally see on a lot of these figures, so that's not going to hinder him too much. And then he pretty much just has swivels down there. So I'll be curious to see the Vintage Collection version, if it swivels or he has a ball joint or any sort of articulation at the hip. And then he's got knees, which are pretty decent, as well as an ankle, which, again, I'm going to be a little careful with this figure because I'm just, a little nervous about him. But all in all, I think he looks pretty good. He's got some pretty nice detail on him. It's a shame that the backpack is not very high quality, but all in all, he'll look pretty good, and I'll put him towards my Clone Wars display, like I said. I did want to see if his arms come out, but I'm kind of worried about breaking this thing even more, so I probably won't mess with that too much. But yeah, that's Professor Huyang from the Disney Parks 4-pack. And moving right along, we have RD3, who looks rather fantastic in my opinion, and is probably one of the ones I was most excited about other than Chopper, just because I really like that opening scene from the Ahsoka series, and yeah, he's just looking pretty good. I'm also a pretty big fan of this mold that we've been getting, this series of astromech. The first time we saw it was in The Mandalorian, and they did give us a Disney Parks 4-pack that had that droid. He was in the Sandcrawler when Cobb Vanth was being rescued, and yeah, you can kind of see him rolling around. They offered him to Cobb Vanth, and he was like, no, I don't want that droid. And you can see that they're pretty similar, except that on this release, they did paint that crater on his eye to be fully black, so it does make it look like he's a little different and has a wider eye. You also can see that he doesn't have the restraining bolt that this droid has, so some little differences there, as well as the cords on his feet. He doesn't have those, so pretty cool. But yeah, all in all, I think this is a really good looking droid, and definitely a big fan of it. It's got some pretty good paint deco all about. Really nicely painted. There's not much going on here in terms of, the articulation. Just the swivels, same thing you saw on Chopper. Just very, classic of these droids. Here's the middle leg portion that you can place back in rather easily. Doesn't turn around, of course. And then, of course, his head does move around. And you can pop that off, just like all of these guys. And you can see the mechanics inside. So all in all, a pretty good release, and I will say, once again, that we need Baylan, Shin, and some new Republic troopers just to, fill out a nice scene on our shelves. And lastly, we have C4-R4C, who is a really nice looking droid with some exceptional paint applications, if I do say so myself. Also, if you're very unsure of where this droid was, he was definitely a blink and you'll miss it kind of droid. He's piloting the cargo speeder that's transporting Hera and Ahsoka around Morgan Elspeth's factory on Corellia, so definitely a deep cut backgrounder, and I didn't think we'd ever get this droid. So pretty cool. I don't think we'll ever get that cargo speeder, but there are some 3D printed options and sellers out there that offer similar things if you want to recreate that scene. But all in all, he looks really good. I love this style of droid. I wish we would see more of these in the vintage collection and just like the Disney Parks sets. I must say that the metallic colors they used on here for his paint applications look so cool, and they added a little bit of weathering and dirt, and I just think that looks fantastic. So much detail on this one, and I really wish they would give this kind of care and attention to a lot more droids that we see in both Vintage Collection and the Disney Park sets. So they really knocked it out of the park with this one, in my opinion. Of course, just like all the other guys, you can't take his dome off, see his mechanics there. And I haven't really shown it with the other ones, but you can, for these astromechs at least, pop off their arms and stuff if you apply a little bit of pressure. I kind of don't want to break him. But yeah, these arms do come off. You can heat it up, and that stuff will work pretty well. And also his middle leg comes out naturally, but yeah. Let's put that back in real quick. And there you go. But yeah, I just got to say that, once again, the weathering and detail on him is fantastic. And let's bring in the first time we ever saw this droid, which was in the Legacy Collection back in the original Build-A-Droid days. And here you can see that very, very similar things going on, except he doesn't have the wires on his feet, and he doesn't have that giant hole that we saw with the Build-A-Droid models. I don't know why they had that in the Legacy Collection, but it's nice that they got rid of it for the Disney Parks and other releases that we've seen. But yeah, pretty much the same thing going on here, just different paint applications. And yeah, he's a nice addition to the collection, and really cool that we're seeing a really, really background droid from the Ahsoka series. And one last thing, I was able to get that leg off, so just to show you that, you can take apart these droids and kind of swap them around and make customs even if you get an extra one of these when they're on sale or whatever. So always cool to have that option. And here you go, just put it right back in there. It snaps in place, so pretty cool stuff. I hope you've enjoyed this video and taking a closer look at the recent Disney Parks Droid Factory 4-pack from the Ahsoka series. Be sure to let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And don't forget to drop a like on this video and subscribe if you're new to the channel. It really helps and is always greatly appreciated. Thanks everyone, and may the Force be with you.